the true answer to your question is that in most cases the governments got involved on their own, and there wasn't, it didn't require a huge public action. That's not true in Australia. We did see that in Australia that there was a lot of public outcry, and it did make a difference. And we also actually saw this in Germany. There was a young man by the name of Renat Kunaz, who had half Turkish, half German citizenship, who took a very long time for the German government to get involved in. And we've seen it with the UK as well, as citizens have become more mobilized to ask the UK government to try to take back some of their residents who aren't citizens. We've seen some fruits of that. So it makes a difference. And I think that there's a lot of different things that can be done on any advocacy campaign. I think that there's letters to the editor. I think talking to editorial boards and getting editorials written makes a difference. I think getting the right messenger makes an enormous difference. Military leaders, security experts, people with intelligence backgrounds to start talking about the issue. The messenger really matters in these types of situations. And making sure that there's a combination of grassroots advocacy and getting communities geared up, and also figuring out who the decision makers are and who know who the decision makers and who they listen to. So there's a lot of different prongs that can be worked on, and a lot of different avenues for a lot of different advocacy, and together it builds up and it makes a difference.
So does it matter if a Human Rights Watch group, for example, matches up with that young woman and her community, some of the people in their community, and they together want to go to the editorial boards or to members of Parliament or whatever? I mean, does it make a difference when it's people from the community and other groups and a coalition of people start to say, 5 of us are calling on you, and we represent this.
I think it does, and I also think that it really makes a difference to have unusual allies. I think that's one of the
allies,
reasons. And unusual allies. Human rights groups matching up with security experts, matching up with law enforcement experts, matching up with counterterrorism experts. That kind of collaboration makes a difference. It's the reason why we've seen, having somebody sit in a room in a military uniform and talk on behalf of Omar Khadr is much more persuasive than having a Human Rights Watch activist. And it's an incredibly important voice to have that voice. And you've seen that in Canada. You've seen a switch as the campaign has that.
And I mean, I might just add to that. I mean, relatively speaking, I was stunned when I first arrived in Canada at the low priority and the low visibility of the Khadr issue, having come from Australia, where after 1 or 2 years it was becoming a national issue, in which trade unions got involved, in which a cross-section of community interest groups got involved, some conservative, some liberal. And so, I mean, I think it's credit to many of the people here on this panel and their organisations, and that in 7 or 8 months, we now have a situation where the leader of the opposition has come out on the issue with the potential that it might be an election issue. So, Canada, I think, comparatively is a long way behind the curve, but the same kind of techniques that are used elsewhere, I've seen no reason why they couldn't be effective here. We're actually already running over time, so I mean, I'm a little reluctant to go further over time. Maybe if you give a brief question.
This question is directed to Lieutenant Kuebler. Well, not to you personally, it's to the system. Is the right to defend oneself only a right to the U.S. Army? Because according to the events that took place that day, according to the U.S. version of those events, that's what Omar Khadr was doing.
Yeah, and that's the problem with this legal model. I mean, Professor Robinson described it at some length. I mean, basically, the U.S. legal theory, the war on terror as applied in Afghanistan, is that no one had a right to resist the U.S. invasion. You either surrendered, or if you resisted, you died. But if you were captured, then you were necessarily a war criminal. And I think that is absolutely contrary to the fundamentals of law of armed conflict.
So you either got shot and died, or you spent the rest of your life in Guantanamo, which is pretty much dying slowly.
Correct.
Thank you. So, I think we're now out of time, so I'd like to thank you all for coming.
Question, please.
We're really running short of time. Is it short?
It is short.
Okay.
As a Muslim woman living in a country where
I came here and I thought, this is liberty, I'm going to be protected, I'm going to be cared for. I have brothers, husbands, fathers, cousins, uncles all around the world. What should I do to make sure that they do not face the same fate? Or what should we all do to make sure that we do not face the same fate?
Take this on that question.
Well, very briefly, I've spoken to Muslim groups from one end of Canada to the other. I've spoken to business Muslim groups. And I always keep saying, fight for your rights, stand up and make your voice be heard. Stand up and speak rationally, and stand up and speak as part of the mosaic.